Emanuel Navarrete versus Dennis Berinchyk. 12 rounds in the 135-pound division. This is for the vacant WBO lightweight title. Let's get into it. Let's start with Emanuel Navarrete. 38 wins, 1 draw, 31 wins by way of knockout. Navarrete is an unorthodox fighter, right? I'm not talking about his stance, right? I'm talking about his style of how he fights. There's no doubt about how good that he is. You know, he's got that fighting spirit about him. When he lets his hands go and he's locked in, man, Navarrete is a problem, right? He is a problem, and he's proven that. You know, the beating that he put on Isaac Dogboe in both fights, the beating he gave J.O. Santizima, Christopher Diaz, Joet Gonzalez, Eduardo Baez, like they all felt his wrath, the power, the unorthodoxness of Vancaro. Navarrete's dominance took effect in full swing at 122, 126, right? Dang near untouchable in those weight classes. He's a tough dude to plan for because, you know, how do you prepare for an awkward style like his, right? A guy who slips shots in from all different angles, and he's able to put himself in positions that not a lot of people would be able to do. The way how he lunges in and doesn't miss a beat, right? Like those are all things that you have to plan for when you're fighting a guy like Emanuel Navarrete. There are people who, you know, they always say there are exceptions to the rules. Technique wise, Navarrete has been to this point exception to the rule, especially at 122 and at 126. However, and I've said this before when we've covered Navarrete on the channel before, man, he's a hot and cold type of fighter to me. Sometimes he looks amazing, spectacular, excellent. And then there are times where he looks like highly beatable and very shaky. Now, at 130 pounds, things get a little bit more interesting because he did not look great against Liam Wilson. Although he did get the nod and he did get the win, man, Liam Wilson was able to drop him, right? And he noticeably hurt Vancaro. Vancaro was in trouble, man. Navarrete, you know, he's always there to get hit, right? But he was getting hit a little more often. And it seemed like at 130, man, he was getting hurt a little bit more. And the power was being a little bit more effective. But credit to Vancaro because he's got that fighting spirit about him, man. If you don't take him out, he's going to find a way to get back up and look much better after he gets knocked down or he's put in a tough position. But then after that, he bounces back to fight Oscar Valdez, and he put forth a dominant performance, and he put a beating on Valdez, man. He looks so much better. And again, it's that hot and cold type of thing, right, that I was talking about earlier. But he also seemed to have came into that fight against Oscar Valdez in much better physical shape than he did against Liam Wilson, and it worked in his favor. Kind of makes me think, like, was he not excited for Liam Wilson? Did he not respect him as much as he respected Oscar Valdez? Because he showed Valdez respect, right? And he came in that fight looking great, and it worked out in his favor. Of course, that's just speculation, man. I'm just going off what is on my mind as we're talking about it. But you will let me know your thoughts in that regard. In his most recent fight, he fought Robson Conceição. There were a lot of people who were not looking forward to this fight. But this fight turned out to be an exciting fight with an interesting finish. Navarrete early on looked excellent, man. He was doing what he does best, letting his hands go, slipping in shots from all angles, right? Landed a nice uppercut on Conceição, followed by the right hand that dropped him and scored himself a knockdown. But Conceição, man, you know, fighting spirit, man. He came back and boxed Vancaro's head off in the next few rounds before getting dropped by a wicked body shot that would have taken out most people in the 7th round that Vancaro landed. Dangerous body shot, man. Again, as I said, that shot 9 times out of 10, that shot takes out opponents and they don't get back up from that shot. But credit to Conceição, man. Now, you know, in boxing, more times than not, if you get dropped twice, usually the fight is a wrap, right? Well, this wasn't the case on the night, man. You know, Conceição kept his cool. He's an experienced fighter, right? An Olympian. He knows what to do in pressure situation, kept his cool, and he came back and won a lot of rounds, and he wasn't doing anything crazy. It was simple 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. It was simple, but it was effective. right? And Navarrete wasn't able to close out the show when he had him hurt. And it was enough what Conceição was doing, 1-2, that it was enough to keep Navarrete at bay. And, I felt like Conceição put forth some really good combinations throughout the fight where he did not neglect the body. Navarrete clearly landed the more eye-catching shots, the heavier punches, but Conceição fought back and won a lot of rounds, and the fight ended up being a draw. It was a very good fight, man. I enjoyed that fight. I wouldn't even mind seeing a rematch of that fight, but Navarrete should have been able to capitalize off of those knockdowns when he had Conceição hurt and find a way to close out the show. So it was a very interesting fight with an interesting result. So again, we'll see what version of Navarrete that we get on the night and what he will look like. Let's talk about his opponent, Denis Berinchyk. 18 wins, no losses, 9 wins by way of knockout. The Olympic silver medalist. Berinchyk is bigger on paper. Now, Berinchyk is the naturally 135-pounder, so he's bigger, at least on paper, right? We'll see what they rehydrate to on the night, but he's also fought at 140 pounds early on in his career. So this is a great opportunity for him to upset the multiple division champion, right? Berincyk's got good movement, man. He's got good sound technique, speed, timing is good. He's a good, solid boxer. But at the same time, this is a step up fight for him. I don't think he's fought anyone quite like Navarrete, from a stylistic standpoint, from someone that carries that power as well, too. And not to mention the experience, man. Navarrete's fought a lot of fights, almost 40 fights. It's a lot of experience inside of the ring. Berinchyk is also, 35, 36 years old, too. Vaquero is about 5 years younger, so that might play a toll in this fight, too. And Berinchyk might play fire with fire. I don't think that's his best avenue to win the fight. I think he can outbox Vaquero, but obviously we'll see what can happen on the night. But Conceição has showed that there is a little bit of a blueprint to beat Vaquero. Now, when Berinchyk fought Yvan Mendy, man, I thought he put forth a pretty good showing, right? Mendy is a very experienced fighter who's been around for a while now, man. And Berinchyk did a good job of boxing and taking what was given to him. He fought on the inside when he needed to. He was physical when he needed to do, but he also boxed and got out of range when he needed to as well, too. Though I thought he countered effectively in the fight, man, and, came away with the win. It was a hard fought fight, and it was one of those fights where he had to earn the victory, and he did just that. Now, when he fought Anthony Yigit, man, in his most recent fight, that was supposed to be the fight that, kind of asserted himself in the next step up. He was supposed to look great, look fantastic. Yigit 2 years prior got bullied by Rolly Romero. Keyshawn Davis put a beating on him as well, too. So it was supposed to be Berincyk's turn to do the same thing. And I don't think that was fully the case. I felt like Yigit was able to turn back the hands a little bit and put forth a spectacular performance, man. I felt like his heart was on display on the night. Berinchyk was very physical in that fight, man. Both guys weren't really thinking too much about defense. They were thinking about, man, if you want to stand here and trade shots with me, I am going to be here, and let's test your spirit. Let's test your will. But Yigit, man, I didn't think he had that fight left in him. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't expecting that type of fight because, he was getting beat up by those other guys in the division who are in that top 10. Right. So it was going to be one of those situations where I felt like Berinchyk was going to find a way to stop him at some point throughout this fight. And he was not able to do that. I felt like in this fight, man, he got sucked into fighting that fight that Yigit wanted rather than using his skill set to help him make this fight a little bit easier, using the jab and, using his feet to create separation. He's from that Ukrainian style of fighting. So footwork is an asset. And I just didn't really see that being a priority in this fight. Now, the interesting part of that is some people even scored the win for Anthony Yigit. Yigit gave it everything that he had, man. But you also got to give the credit to Berinchyk because sometimes the fight doesn't play out like how you want it to, but you still have to find a way how to get it done. Even if it's an ugly fight, you still got to find a way to win. And Berinchyk found a way to win this fight, and he did what he needed to do to get it done, man. But he did do some solid work offensively. Berinchyk is a very good offensive fighter, but defensively, that could be some things that might work against them. Not the greatest performance in that fight. I felt like he needed to make a statement, and I didn't exactly see that for me personally. You might feel different, but he is going to need to do a lot more than that in order to beat Navarrete. But on the night, anything can happen. The better man, the better prepared man is going to win on the night. So who wins? I think Vancaro personally, this is just my personal opinion, man. I think he is due for one of those fights where his popularity isn't going to be able to bail him out. And I'm a big supporter of Vancaro, man. The only thing that bothers me about him is the fact that he's hot and cold. He's great one night and inconsistent the other night, and that's not going to serve you much longer, especially when you're moving up in division and you're fighting those top guys in that 135-pound division. But I'm not sure this is the fight where that happens and Vancaro does not get the win. I don't think Berinchyk is the opponent to beat Vancaro. I think he's in for a long night. If Navarrete wants to make a statement at 135, he needs to stop Berinchyk here. Can he? Of course. Will he? We'll see on the night. But if Navarrete is who we think he is, man, he's got to have a dominant performance on the night. Even if he doesn't stop him, he got to beat him up real good. And I mean real good. But I like Vancaro to win this fight by stoppage. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear from you. Who do you think wins this one? How do you see it going? Let me know in the comment section below. If you're enjoying the content, enjoying the videos, then I hope that you'll consider subscribing to the channel and definitely share this with a friend. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video, this don't do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.